Doyun stood at the observation window of the human frigate times Dauntless Asterisk, watching the planet Luminara Prime grow larger on the screen. The world glowed with soft blue and purple light, even from space. Crystalline towers reached up from the surface like frozen lightning, and forests seemed to shimmer with their own inner glow. He had seen many planets during his service, but nothing like this. Beautiful, isn't it? Ambassador Yuna stepped beside him, her reflection appearing in the glass. She wore the formal diplomatic uniform, dark blue with Earth's symbol on the shoulder. It is, Doyun agreed. His own uniform was simpler. Black tactical gear with minimal decoration. He was security, not diplomacy. His job was to keep people like Yuna alive while they did the talking. Nervous? She asked. Always am before a mission, he said honestly. Keeps me sharp. Yuna smiled. This isn't a battlefield, Doyun. We're here to make friends. Every place is a battlefield until proven otherwise, Ambassador. She shook her head but didn't argue. Doyun had 12 years of military experience behind him. He had learned early that assuming safety was the fastest way to get someone killed. The Velthari might be advanced, might be sophisticated, but they were still unknown. Unknown meant dangerous. The ship shuddered slightly as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Within an hour, they were walking down the landing ramp onto Velthari soil. The air smelled like flowers and something metallic Doyun couldn't identify. The light had a strange quality to it, softer than Earth's sun but somehow more vibrant. A delegation of Velthari waited for them. They were tall, taller than any human, with skin that seemed to hold light beneath its surface. Their eyes were large and completely black, like pools of deep water. They wore flowing robes that changed color as they moved. Welcome to Luminara Prime, the lead Velthari said. Her voice was musical, each word like a note. I am Counselor Mira. Queen Hera sends her greetings and looks forward to meeting you tomorrow. Ambassador Yuna bowed in the Velthari style they had practiced. We are honored to be here. The next hours passed in a blur of tours and introductions. The Velthari palace was enormous, with rooms that seemed to grow from the ground itself rather than being built. Everything glowed softly. Doyun kept his eyes moving, cataloging exits, counting guards, noting weapons. The Velthari guards carried staffs that hummed with energy, dangerous, but not drawn. Good. That evening, Doyun was assigned a special duty. He would guard Princess Ara during her visit to the human delegation's quarters. The princess wanted to meet the humans informally, and Queen Hera had agreed on the condition that both human and Velthari guards were present. Princess Ara arrived with 2 of her own guards. She was younger than the other Velthari Doyun had seen, and her robes were silver and white. Her eyes, though black like all her people, seemed curious rather than distant. You must be Doyun, she said in perfect English. I've read your file. Former Special Forces, correct? Doyun blinked. You have access to our files? Only what your ambassador provided. I like to know who I'm meeting. She moved past him into the common area where the human team had gathered. Tell me, is it true that humans only live about 100 years? On average, yes, Your Highness. She turned to look at him, and something like sadness crossed her face. So short. My people live thousands of years. I cannot imagine experiencing so little time. We make the most of what we have, Doyun said. You must, she said quietly. I've been reading human history. Your world nearly destroyed itself multiple times, yet you survived. You fought diseases that killed millions, and came back stronger. You built civilizations from nothing over and over again. She paused. Why? Why keep fighting when you have so little time? Doyun considered the question. No one had ever asked him that before. Because giving up means the end. Fighting means there's a chance. We might not have long, but we can make it matter. Princess Ara studied him for a long moment. I think I understand now why the Queen agreed to this alliance. Your people are resilient. We have to be. The evening continued with the princess asking hundreds of questions about Earth, about human culture, about everything. She was genuinely fascinated. Not just polite. Do-yun found himself relaxing slightly, though his eyes never stopped moving, never stopped watching. It was late when Princess Ara finally prepared to leave. "Thank you for your time," she said to the human team. "I look forward to tomorrow's ceremony." As she walked to the door, one of her guards leaned close and whispered something. The princess's expression tightened for just a moment before smoothing again. Do-yun caught it. Something was wrong. "Is everything all right, Your Highness?" he asked. She looked at him, surprised. "You're very observant. It's nothing serious. Just politics. Not everyone in my government supports this alliance. There are those who think humans are too primitive, too dangerous, too primitive." "Are we?" Do-yun asked. "I don't think so," she said. "I think you're different. And different is not the same as lesser." She smiled. "Good night, Do-yun. I hope we can speak more after the treaty is signed." After she left, Do-yun stood at the window of his quarters, looking out over the glowing city. Something about the princess's words bothered him. Not everyone supports the alliance. In his experience, that kind of opposition didn't just disappear because a treaty was signed. It went underground. It got dangerous. He pulled up his personal terminal and began reviewing the security plans for tomorrow's ceremony. The Velthari had assured them that their palace was perfectly safe, that their security was unbreakable. Do-yun had heard similar promises on 6 different worlds. 3 of those times, someone had tried to kill a diplomat anyway. He spent the next 2 hours going over every detail, every access point, every possible threat vector. When he finally went to bed, he set 3 separate alarms. Tomorrow was the treaty signing. Tomorrow, humans and Velthari would officially become allies. Do-yun hoped it would be that simple. But 12 years of experience told him that nothing ever was. He fell asleep with his sidearm within arm's reach and his boots beside the bed. Old habits from old battlefields. He didn't know it then, but those old habits would save a life tomorrow, just not his own. The great hall of the Velthari palace could hold 10,000 people, and today it seemed every space was filled. The ceiling arched high above, made of crystal that split the light into 1,000 colors. Do-yun stood at his assigned position, 3 meters behind Ambassador Yuna, his eyes constantly moving across the crowd. The Velthari filled most of the hall, their glowing skin creating a sea of soft light. The human delegation was small by comparison. Maybe 50 people total. They looked tiny among the tall aliens. But Yuna stood straight and proud as she waited for the ceremony to begin. Music began, something that sounded like wind chimes and deep bells mixed together. The crowd quieted. From the far end of the hall, Queen Hera entered. Do-yun had seen pictures, but they hadn't prepared him for the reality. The queen was ancient, older than any human civilization. And it showed in her eyes. She moved with absolute authority, her robes flowing behind her like liquid starlight. She was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Princess Ara walked beside her mother, wearing ceremonial armor that gleamed like ice. She caught Do-yun's eye for just a moment and gave the smallest nod. He nodded back. The queen took her place on the raised platform at the center of the hall. Ambassador Yuna climbed the steps to join her. Between them, a crystal pedestal held the treaty, written in both human languages and Velthari script. "We gather today." Queen Hera's voice filled the enormous space without effort, to forge a new bond between our peoples. The Velthari Empire and humanity, together as allies. Cheers erupted from most of the crowd. But not all. Do-yun noticed pockets of silence. Clusters of Velthari who did not celebrate. His hand moved unconsciously closer to his sidearm. Ambassador Yuna spoke next, her voice amplified by Velthari technology. "Earth is honored to stand with the Velthari. Though we are young by your standards, we bring friendship, curiosity, and strength to this alliance." More cheers. Yuna and the queen each picked up styluses that would seal the treaty with their biosignatures. They moved toward the crystal pedestal. That's when Do-yun saw it. A flash of movement in the crowd, too fast, too purposeful. 3 Velthari in dark robes pushing through the crowd toward the platform. One of them raised their hand, and Doyun saw the blade, crystal and sharp, catching the light. But they weren't aiming at the queen or the ambassador. They were moving toward Princess Ara, who stood to the side of the platform, unguarded in the ceremonial space. Doyun didn't think. 12 years of training took over. He launched himself forward, pushing past 2 Velthari dignitaries, his boots hammering against the polished floor. The attackers were fast, inhumanly fast. But they hadn't expected a human to react so quickly. "Ara, down!" he shouted. The princess turned toward his voice, confusion on her face. The attackers were already there, blades raised. Doyun reached her a half-second before the blades fell. He wrapped his arms around her and twisted, putting his body between her and the attackers. He felt the first blade punch into his shoulder, a cold, burning sensation that stole his breath. The second caught him in the chest, sliding between his ribs. The third entered his abdomen, and he felt something inside him tear. The pain was enormous, but distant, like it was happening to someone else. He heard screaming, heard alarms, heard the hum of energy weapons powering up. His legs gave out, and he fell, still holding Princess Ara against him, shielding her with his body. "No. No. No." Ara's voice, high and panicked. She was trying to hold him. Her hands pressed against his wounds. Her skin glowed brighter where his blood touched it, like his blood burned her. Doyun tried to speak, tried to ask if she was safe, but his lungs wouldn't work properly. Blood filled his mouth. The world was getting darker at the edges. Around them, chaos erupted. The human security team opened fire on the attackers. Velthari palace guards rushed forward with their energy staffs. More attackers appeared from the crowd, dozens of them, all in dark robes, all armed with crystal blades. It wasn't just an assassination attempt, it was a coordinated assault. Doyun felt himself being lowered to the ground. Ara was still there, her face above his, her black eyes wide with horror. He tried to smile, tried to tell her it was okay, but the darkness was closing in too fast. "Hold on," she was saying. "Please hold on." He managed to move his lips. "Are you safe?" "Yes, because of you. Stay with me." But he couldn't. The darkness was too strong. His last thought was that at least he'd done his job. He'd kept someone safe. That was enough. When Doyun's eyes closed, he didn't see the battle that raged around his body. He didn't see the human security team and loyal Velthari guards fighting back the attackers. He didn't see Ambassador Yuna, protected by 4 guards, shouting orders. He didn't see the attackers finally overwhelmed and captured. And he didn't see Queen Hera arrive, her robes stained with the blood of attackers she had personally struck down. Her ancient face twisted with fury. She looked down at the human who had saved her daughter, bleeding out on her palace floor. "Medical team, now!" the queen commanded. Both human and Velthari doctors rushed forward. They worked frantically, their equipment humming and beeping. Doyun's vitals were displayed on holographic screens. His heart rate was dropping. His blood pressure was nearly 0. The crystal blades had shattered inside him, and the fragments were spreading through his bloodstream. "The blades were poisoned," a Velthari doctor said, his voice shaking. "A biological weapon designed to kill Velthari royalty. It crystallizes the blood. Can you save him?" Queen Hera demanded. The doctor looked at her with devastated eyes. "Your Majesty, he's human. We don't know how the poison affects human biology. We don't have treatments for his species." The human doctor, a woman named Dr. Kang, was working desperately with her limited equipment. "His organs are shutting down. The crystal fragments are shredding him from the inside. Even if we evacuate him to the ship, even if we get him back to Earth." She stopped, unable to finish. "Tell me," Queen Hera said. Dr. Kang looked up, tears in her eyes. "He's dying, Your Majesty. Minutes, maybe. I'm sorry." Princess Ara, still covered in Doyun's blood, let out a sound like breaking glass. "No. He saved me." He can't die for that. He can't. Queen Hera stared down at the human. His face was pale, his breathing shallow and irregular. She had seen death countless times in her long life. She knew its approach. This human had minutes left, if that. But as she watched, something changed in the Queen's expression. Her jaw set. Her eyes hardened. She had lost someone precious once, long ago, to violence she couldn't prevent. She had sworn then that she would never allow it again. No, Queen Hera said quietly. Then louder. No, I refuse. I will not allow this human to die for my daughter. The doctors looked at her in confusion. Your Majesty. There's nothing. Find something, the Queen commanded. Her voice carried absolute authority, the power of someone who had ruled for millennia. Stasis field. Put him in stasis. Do it now. But Your Majesty, that won't cure him. It will only delay. Do it now. The Velthari medical team scrambled to obey. Within seconds, a shimmering field surrounded Doyun's body, freezing him at the edge of death. His heart stopped mid-beat. His blood stopped flowing. Time itself seemed to pause around him. Queen Hera looked at her daughter, then at the frozen human, then at the doctors. You have your orders. Find a way to save him. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if it's never been done before. Find a way. In the silence that followed, everyone understood. The Queen of the Velthari Empire, who had ruled for 3,000 years, had just declared war on death itself. The Royal Medical Wing had never been so crowded. Doctors from across the Velthari Empire filled the research halls, summoned by their queen's direct order. Human medical staff from the dauntless times worked alongside them, sharing data, comparing notes, arguing about treatments that might or might not work. At the center of it all, in a private chamber, Doyun floated in the stasis field. His body was frozen at the moment between life and death. Crystal fragments visible through his skin like dark stars. The field hummed softly, the only sound in the otherwise silent room. Queen Hera stood before the field, her hands clasped behind her back. She had been there for 6 hours, watching, thinking. Princess Ara sat in a corner, still wearing her blood-stained ceremonial armor, refusing to leave. Your Majesty. A Velthari scientist named Dr. Kiran entered, bowing deeply. We've completed the initial analysis. Report, the Queen said without turning. Dr. Kiran approached, holding a holographic display. The poison is called Sharakai, a forbidden bioweapon created during the civil wars 3,000 years ago. It was designed to kill Velthari royalty by crystallizing the blood and stopping regeneration. I know what it is, Queen Hera said coldly. I was there when we banned it. Tell me about the human. That's the strange part, Your Majesty. The poison is working on him, but differently. Velthari blood crystallizes instantly. His is crystallizing slowly. Over hours instead of seconds, his body is fighting it. For the first time, the Queen turned to look at the scientist. Fighting it? How? We don't fully understand human biology yet, but their immune system is remarkably aggressive. Where our bodies accept foreign materials and adapt to them, human bodies attack anything unfamiliar. His white blood cells are trying to destroy the crystal fragments, but failing, the Queen observed. Yes. There are too many fragments, and they're spreading. But the fact that his body is fighting it all gives us time we wouldn't have with a Velthari patient. Doctor, Kiran brought up images on the display, showing Doyun's cells attacking the crystals. It's remarkable. Really. Humans evolved on a hostile world, constantly fighting diseases and infections. Their bodies are built for combat at a cellular level. Can we use that? Princess Ara spoke up from her corner. Can we help his body fight? Dr. Kiran looked uncertain. Perhaps. But we've never attempted to mix Velthari medical technology with human biology. The risks are enormous. Explain the risks, Queen Hera commanded. Our regeneration technology works by accelerating natural healing processes. In Velthari, this is controlled and predictable. In a human? Dr. Kieran shook his head. Their bodies already heal much faster than ours, despite living shorter lives. If we accelerate that further, it could cause uncontrolled cell growth, cancer, essentially. Or his immune system might attack his own body. Or the treatment might simply fail, and we'll have wasted the time the stasis field bought us. How long does the stasis field last? Queen Hera asked. At current settings? 4 days, maybe 5. Then the decay will continue despite the field. We can't hold him at the edge forever. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she said, Dr. Kieran, how old are you? The scientist blinked at the sudden question. 347 years, Your Majesty. I am 3,112, the Queen said. In that time, I have learned many things. One of them is that risk and reward are two sides of the same blade. Another is that doing nothing is also a choice. And usually the worst one. She turned fully to face him. Develop the treatment. I want your best theoretical approach in 6 hours. Your Majesty, 6 hours isn't enough time to. You have access to every computer, every laboratory, every scientist in the Empire. Use them. 6 hours. Dr. Kieran bowed and left quickly. As soon as he was gone, Ambassador Yuna entered the chamber. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Your Majesty, she said. I've been speaking with my government. Earth is sending a medical ship, but it won't arrive for 22 days. I need to. She paused, looking at Doyun's suspended form. I need to make a decision. As the senior human official present, I have to authorize or deny any experimental procedures on my people. I am not asking permission, Queen Hera said. I am informing you of what will happen. With respect, Your Majesty. He's one of my people. If this goes wrong, if we do nothing, he dies, the Queen interrupted. With certainty. The experimental treatment gives him a chance. Small, yes. Dangerous. Yes. But a chance is better than none. Yuna walked closer to the stasis field, looking at Doyun's face. He looked peaceful. Frozen mid-breath. He was always like this, she said quietly. Always the one to step forward when things got dangerous. I've known him for 3 years. In that time, I've seen him throw himself between danger and others 5 times. This makes 6. Why? Princess Ara asked. Why does he do it? Because he believes that if he can help, he should, Yuna said. It's that simple for him. Power isn't about strength, it's about what you do with it. She turned to Queen Hera. He told me once that humans don't have much time, so we have to make what we do matter. Saving people matters to him. The Queen studied the ambassador for a long moment. You care for him, he's my friend. He's saved my life twice. Yuna took a breath. Do the procedure. If anyone could survive something experimental and impossible, it's Doyun. The man's too stubborn to die. Over the next hours, the medical wing became a hive of activity. Scientists presented theories, argued, refined their approach. Human doctors shared everything they knew about human biology. Velthari specialists in regeneration technology worked to adapt their methods. Queen Hera attended every meeting, asked every question, pushed them to work faster. Princess Ara watched it all, learning why her mother was called the Unyielding. When Dr. Kieran returned with the treatment plan, he looked nervous. Your Majesty, we have an approach. It's experimental, dangerous, and has never been tested. But it might work. Explain. We'll use Velthari regeneration technology to boost his natural healing. But we'll modify it to work with his immune response, rather than against it. Essentially, we'll teach his body to recognize the crystal fragments as foreign and destroy them while simultaneously healing the damage they've caused. What's the success rate? Dr. Kieran hesitated. We have no data. This has never been attempted. But theoretically, 20%. Maybe 20%. 1 chance in 5. Ara made a small sound of distress. But Queen Hera simply nodded. Begin preparations. We start in 1 hour. That hour passed too quickly. The medical team assembled around the stasis field. Equipment hummed to life. Monitors displayed Do-yoon's frozen vital signs. "Your Majesty," Dr. Kieran said. "Once we begin, we can't stop. Either the treatment works, or, I understand, begin." The stasis field flickered and dissolved. For one terrible moment, nothing happened. Then Do-yoon's heart beat once, twice. The monitors screamed warnings as his body resumed its shutdown. The medical team moved fast. Injectors delivered the modified Velthari regeneration serum directly into his bloodstream. Ara watched the monitors, not understanding most of what she saw but recognizing the meaning when every readout turned red. "He's crashing," Dr. Kang said urgently. "Heart rate dropping, blood pressure critical. The serum needs time to take effect," Dr. Kieran said, but his voice was uncertain. On the monitors, Do-yoon's heart rate fell lower and lower. The line on the screen went from beeping to a steady tone. "He's flatlined," Dr. Kang said. Starting compressions, she began pressing on Do-yoon's chest, trying to manually restart his heart. 30 compressions. 2 breaths. 30 more compressions. The monitors remained flat. "It's not working," Ara whispered. "Mother, it's not working." Queen Hera said nothing. Her face was carved from stone, revealing nothing, but her hands were clenched so tight her knuckles were white. 2 minutes. 3. Dr. Kang continued the compressions, sweat beading on her forehead. 4 minutes. At 5 minutes, Dr. Kieran gently touched her shoulder. "Dr. Kang, it's time to stop." "No, just a little longer. There's no brain activity. He's gone." Dr. Kang looked up at Queen Hera, desperate for orders to continue. The Queen's face showed nothing, but something in her ancient eyes looked broken. She started to nod, and then the monitor beeped. Once. Twice. Everyone froze. Do-yoon's heart was beating again. On its own. Without help. Impossible. But happening. The first day after Do-yoon's heart restarted, nobody spoke above a whisper in the medical wing. The monitors showed his heart beating, his lungs breathing, his brain active. But he remained unconscious, locked in some deep place between life and death. Dr. Kieran examined the scans every hour, his expression growing more amazed each time. "Impossible," he kept muttering. "Absolutely impossible." Yet it's happening," Queen Hera said. She had barely left the room since the procedure, sleeping in a chair when she slept at all. "Explain what I'm seeing." The scientist pulled up a holographic image of Do-yoon's cells. "The Velthari regeneration markers are integrating with his human cells. Not replacing them, not fighting them, but merging with them. His immune system attacked them at first, but then..." He shook his head. Then his body adapted. It recognized that the regeneration markers were helping fight the crystal poison, so it stopped attacking and started working with them. "That's impossible," Dr. Kang said. "The human immune system doesn't work that way. It doesn't negotiate." "His does, Doctor," Kieran said simply. "Look at these readings. His white blood cells are using the Velthari technology to hunt down crystal fragments. They're destroying them piece by piece." "How long until all the poison is cleared?" Queen Hera asked. "At this rate, 4 more days, maybe 5. But Your Majesty, this is just the beginning." "The implications." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "What we're seeing is a fundamental compatibility between Velthari and human biology that we never imagined possible. His body is creating something new, something hybrid." Princess Ara entered the room carrying a book, one of the human texts from their delegation. She had been reading to Do-yoon daily, choosing stories of survival and perseverance. "Is he getting better?" she asked hopefully. "His vitals are stabilizing," Dr. Kang confirmed. "But he's still unconscious. We don't know when or if he'll wake up." Ara sat beside Do-yoon's bed and began reading. Her voice was soft but clear, telling a story about humans who had survived a disaster on Earth. who had rebuilt from nothing. Queen Hera listened, finding herself drawn into the tale despite never having heard it before. Humans wrote differently than Velthari, she realized. Their stories were urgent, compressed, trying to fit meaning into their short lifespans. On the second day, Doyun's fingers twitched. Dr. Kang immediately ran tests. Reflex response, she concluded. His body's healing, but he's still deep in unconsciousness. Queen Hera spent that day reading human history files, trying to understand what made these short-lived beings so resilient. She read about wars that should have destroyed them but didn't, plagues that killed millions but left the survivors stronger, environmental disasters that they adapted to instead of fleeing from. They don't give up, she said to Counselor Mira, who had come to report on the political situation. Even when giving up would be logical, they keep fighting. Is that admirable, or simply stubborn? Mira asked. Perhaps both, the Queen said. Perhaps that's why one of them is lying in that bed instead of my daughter. The attack had changed things politically. The Purists, as the attackers called themselves, had been arrested. Their leader had confessed to planning the assassination to prevent the alliance, but the plan had backfired spectacularly. Seeing a human sacrifice himself for Princess Ara had swayed many skeptical Velthari. Support for the alliance was now overwhelming. The people are calling him Kithara, Mira said. The word is spreading. Queen Hera nodded. Kithara was an old Velthari word, rarely used anymore. It meant bridge between worlds, someone who connected things that seemed unconnectable. On the third day, Doyun's eyes began moving beneath his closed eyelids. He was dreaming, the monitors confirmed. Dr. Kiran was fascinated. His brain activity is increasing. The regeneration isn't just healing his body, it's repairing neural pathways, strengthening connections. Will he be the same? Princess Ara asked worriedly. When he wakes up, will he still be Doyun? All his memories should be intact, Dr. Kang assured her. The treatment healed damage. It didn't create new pathways or alter existing ones. He'll be himself. But changed, Dr. Kiran added. The regeneration markers in his cells are permanent. He'll heal faster than a normal human, be more resistant to disease and injury. He might even live longer, though we won't know how much longer without years of study. On the fourth day, Queen Hera made a public announcement. She stood before the Velthari Grand Council and the human delegation, her presence commanding absolute attention. 4 days ago, a human named Doyun sacrificed his life to save my daughter. She began. He did not hesitate. He did not calculate odds or benefits. He simply acted because someone needed help, and he could provide it. This, I believe, is the essence of humanity. Not their technology, not their military might, but their willingness to act when action is needed. She paused, letting her words sink in. Doyun is still fighting for his life. Our doctors, human and Velthari working together, have given him a chance. But regardless of the outcome, I want it known that he has already accomplished something remarkable. He has shown us that humans, despite their short lives, can teach those of us who live millennia about courage and sacrifice. The treaty will be signed when he awakens, she declared, not before. He has earned the right to witness what his sacrifice has made possible. On the 5th day, Ambassador Yuna visited with a letter from Earth. Doyun's family had been notified of his condition. His mother had sent a message. Tell him to fight. That's what we do. Yuna read the message aloud to Doyun's still form. Your mom's right, you know. You never give up on anything. Remember that time on Station Kepler? The reactor was failing. Everyone was evacuating. But you stayed to help get the last civilians out. You almost didn't make it. She wiped her eyes. You did make it, though. Just like you'll make it through this. On the 6th day, Dr. Kiran made a discovery that changed everything. He burst into the room where Queen Hera and Princess Ara were keeping vigil. Your Majesty, the treatment. It's not just saving him. It's created a breakthrough. He brought up holographic scans, showing cellular structures. The way his body adapted to the Velthari regeneration technology, we can replicate it. We can use this to improve medical treatments for both species. Humans could benefit from our regeneration technology, and we could learn from their aggressive immune response. You're saying his sacrifice might save more lives than just his own? Queen Hera asked. Potentially thousands, millions. This hybrid approach to medicine could revolutionize how we treat injuries and diseases. The Queen looked at Doyun's sleeping face. Then we owe him more than we can ever repay. On the 7th day, Princess Ara was reading another human story when Doyun's eyes moved again. This time, they opened. For a moment, he just stared at the ceiling, confused. Then he turned his head slightly and saw Ara sitting beside him. She had dropped her book, her hand covering her mouth. Doyun, she whispered. Can you hear me? He tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. Dr. Kang was there instantly, giving him water, checking his vitals. The monitors showed everything strengthening, stabilizing. Where? Doyun managed to croak. You're in the Royal Medical Wing, Dr. Kang said, her voice shaking with relief. You've been unconscious for 7 days. Ara? He asked, looking at the princess. Safe? Tears were running down Ara's face, her skin glowing brighter with emotion. Yes. Because of you. You saved me. Doyun tried to smile but winced instead. Good. That's good. Queen Hera entered the room, summoned by emergency alert. She stopped in the doorway, staring at the human, who should have been dead. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she approached the bed and did something that shocked everyone present. She bowed to him. Queen Hera, who had ruled for 3,000 years, bowed to a human who had lived barely 30. Welcome back, Kithara, she said. You've been missed. Doyun looked confused. Kithara? It's what they're calling you, Ara explained, wiping her tears. It means bridge between worlds. Because you've connected humans and Velthari in a way no one else could. Doyun looked down at his hands. They looked normal, but he could feel something different in his body. Something new. What happened to me? That, Queen Hera said, is a long story. But you have time to hear it. Thanks to your stubbornness, you have plenty of time. Recovery was slower than Doyun expected but faster than the doctors predicted. Within 3 days of waking, he could sit up. Within 5, he could walk short distances. Within a week, he was arguing with Dr. Kang about being discharged. You were dead, she reminded him firmly. Actually dead. Your heart stopped for over 5 minutes. You don't just walk away from that. I'm walking right now, Doyun pointed out, pacing the medical room. He felt different, like his body was humming with energy it hadn't had before. The scars from the crystal blades were still visible on his chest and abdomen, but they were thin, silver lines instead of the jagged wounds they should have been. Dr. Kiran examined him daily, documenting everything. Your cellular regeneration is remarkable, he said, scanning Doyun's chest. The Velthari markers have fully integrated. You're healing at approximately 3 times the normal human rate. What does that mean long-term? Doyun asked. We don't know. You're unique, the first successful human Velthari medical hybrid. You might live longer than a normal human. You'll definitely be more resistant to injury and disease. Beyond that, Dr. Kiran shrugged. We'll learn together. Princess Ara visited every day, bringing books, food, and conversation. She told him about the political changes since the attack. The purists had been tried and sentenced. Public opinion had shifted overwhelmingly toward the alliance. Humans were no longer seen as primitive newcomers but as potential friends. You changed everything, she said one afternoon. They were sitting on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. One action, one choice, and you changed how my entire civilization sees yours. I just did what needed doing, Doyun said. He still didn't fully understand why everyone was making such a big deal of it. That's exactly why it matters, Ara said. You didn't think about politics or alliances or what you'd gain. You just saw someone in danger and helped. It's so. She searched for the word, so human. Doyun smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. It is one. Queen Hera appeared in the doorway. Am I interrupting? Not at all, mother, Ara said, standing. The queen waved her back down and took a seat herself. She studied Doyun for a long moment. Dr. Kiran tells me you're recovering well. Better than expected, apparently. You keep exceeding expectations. It's becoming a habit. The queen's expression grew serious. I've been reading about your world, Doyun. About human history. I must admit, when we first made contact with Earth, I viewed your species as children, short-lived, impulsive, prone to violence. That's not entirely wrong, Doyun admitted. But it's not entirely right either, the queen continued. You are violent, yes, but usually in defense of others. You are impulsive, but that impulse often leads to heroism, and your short lives. She paused. I used to think living a long time made the Velthari wise. Now I wonder if living a short time makes humans brave. We don't have time to be afraid, Doyun said. We have to act while we can. Exactly. Queen Hera stood. The treaty signing has been rescheduled for 3 days from now. You will stand with me as an honored witness. Not as a guard, but as a representative of everything this alliance means. Your Majesty, I'm just a security specialist. You were a security specialist. Now you are Kithara. Accept it. Over the next 3 days, Doyun learned what being Kithara meant. He couldn't walk through the palace without Velthari stopping to bow to him. Children wanted to touch him, as if his stubbornness was contagious. Artists asked to paint him. Poets wrote verses about the human who bridged two worlds. It was overwhelming and embarrassing in equal measure. Ambassador Yuna found it hilarious. Welcome to fame, she said, grinning. You're a living symbol now. Better get used to it. I liked being anonymous, Doyun grumbled. Should have thought of that before dying dramatically to save a princess. The day of the treaty signing arrived. Doyun wore formal human clothing, dark and simple compared to the flowing Velthari robes around him. He stood on the platform beside Queen Hera, with Princess Ara on his other side. The great hall was packed again. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Excited instead of tense. Hopeful instead of divided. Queen Hera spoke first. 10 days ago, an attack meant to divide us instead brought us together. A human named Doyun showed us that true strength isn't about power or longevity. It's about what you're willing to sacrifice for others. She turned to Doyun. This human was a stranger to us. He had no obligation to my daughter, to me, to any Velthari. Yet when she was in danger, he didn't hesitate. He gave everything to save her. That is the kind of ally I want for the Velthari Empire. Ambassador Yuna stepped forward. Queen Hera gave everything to save Doyun when she could have let him die. She refused to accept death when acceptance would have been easier. She fought for him the way he fought for Princess Ara. That is the kind of ally Earth wants. The two leaders approached the crystal pedestal where the treaty waited. This time, no attackers emerged from the crowd. This time, when they signed, the entire hall erupted in genuine celebration. Doyun watched it happen, still not quite believing he was part of it. Ara squeezed his hand. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For being stubborn enough to live. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Doyun tried to avoid it, but Queen Hera insisted. You're the guest of honor. You can't hide. He endured hours of introductions, of Velthari thanking him, of humans slapping his back and calling him a hero. Finally, he escaped to a quiet terrace overlooking the city. He wasn't alone for long. Queen Hera found him there, 2 glasses of some glowing Velthari drink in her hands. She offered him one. To surviving, she said, raising her glass. To surviving. Doyun echoed. They drank. The liquid tasted like starlight, if starlight had a taste. I've made a decision, the Queen said. We're establishing a joint medical research center, combining Velthari and human knowledge. It will be named the Kithara Institute. Your Majesty, You don't have to. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for the thousands who will benefit from the treatment we developed to save you. Your sacrifice saved more than one life. Do-yun, it's going to save countless others. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. Finally, Do-yun asked, "What happens now?" "For me, I mean, that's your choice. You can return to Earth as a hero, or you can stay here as a liaison. Either way, you're welcome." Do-yun thought about it. Earth was home. His family was there. His friends. Everything familiar. But here, he had become something new. A bridge, they called him. A connection between two worlds. "I think I'll stay," he said. "At least for a while. I've invested too much blood in this place to leave now." Queen Hera smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. "You humans have a saying, I believe, about blood, sweat, and tears? Something like that. You've certainly given all three." She turned to face him fully. "I came to these negotiations thinking humans were insignificant. Too short-lived to matter on the galactic stage. Too young to have wisdom worth hearing. Changed your mind? Completely. One human proved that significance isn't measured in years lived. It's measured in what you do with the time you have. It's measured in courage shown when it matters most." She paused. "The galaxy will learn what I now know. Humanity's greatest strength was never your technology or your numbers. It's your stubborn, reckless, beautiful refusal to let others suffer when you can do something about it." Do-yun felt his face getting warm. "We just do what seems right." "I know. That's what makes it beautiful." They were joined by Princess Ara and Ambassador Yuna. The four of them stood together on the terrace, watching the twin suns begin to set. The sky turned colors that Earth never showed, purples and greens mixing with gold. "It's beautiful," Yuna said softly. "It is," Ara agreed. "And now it's a view we can share. Humans and Velthari. Together." Do-yun looked at the faces around him. An ancient queen who had refused to let him die. A princess who felt responsible for his sacrifice. An ambassador who had believed in him enough to authorize an impossible treatment. All of them connected by one moment of action, one choice to help instead of hesitate. Maybe that's what being human meant. Not living forever, but making the moments count. Not being the strongest or the smartest, but being there when it mattered. Not giving up, even when giving up made sense. The scars on his chest twinged slightly, a reminder of what he'd survived. But looking at the sunset, at the people beside him, at the city below where two species were learning to build something together, Do-yun decided it was worth it. Every scar, every moment of pain, every second of uncertainty, all of it worth it for this moment right here. "So," Yuna said, breaking the comfortable silence, "what do we do now?" Queen Hera's eyes gleamed with something that might have been mischief. "Now? Now we see what humans and Velthari can accomplish together. I suspect it will be remarkable." "No pressure," Do-yun muttered, but he was smiling. Ara laughed, the sound like bells. "You died and came back, Do-yun. Everything else will be easy compared to that." He supposed she had a point. He'd survived the impossible. Whatever came next, he could handle it. That's what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They kept going. And now, for the first time in human history, they wouldn't be doing it alone. They had allies. Friends. A bridge between worlds that started with one stubborn human who refused to let someone die on his watch. The sun continued to set, painting the alien sky in impossible colors. Somewhere below, the treaty was being celebrated. Somewhere above, stars were beginning to appear. And here on this terrace, four people from two worlds stood together, watching a new era begin. It wasn't perfect. There would be challenges ahead, misunderstandings, conflicts. But they would face them together. Human stubbornness and Velthari wisdom combined. The galaxy, Do-yun thought, had better be ready. Because humanity was here to stay. And they'd just made their first real friends among the stars. And that, he decided, was worth dying for.